Nothing says happy anniversary, quite like watching your husband's tongue explore his assistant's dental work in the company parking lot. 10 years of marriage to Weston Emerson had taught me many things. How to smile through his mother's passive-aggressive comments about my cooking, how to politely applaud when he won another corporate award for essentially moving money from column A to column B, and apparently, how to silently film an affair in progress while maintaining perfect camera stability. Future Oscar nomination for cinematography? Perhaps. I'm Pearl Emerson, 38, event planner extraordinaire. The woman who orchestrates flawless corporate gatherings where boring people in expensive suits pretend to enjoy each other's company. The irony of planning my own anniversary surprise only to receive one in return wasn't lost on me. Tuesday, October 15th started like any other day in our pristine Westchester County neighborhood. Autumn leaves perfectly arranged on manicured lawns as if the HOA had guidelines even for foliage placement. I had taken the afternoon off to prepare for our anniversary. 10 years of what I thought was matrimonial bliss, packaged in a 4,200 square foot colonial, with his and hers walk-in closets. The restaurant reservation at Luminaire had been secured 3 months in advance, because nothing says I love you like planning that far ahead to eat overpriced food. I'd even bought a new dress, something Weston had been subtly hinting at for months with comments like, "Don't you think it's time to refresh your wardrobe?" Translation: "Your current clothes make you look like someone's middle-aged aunt." I decided to surprise him at work, something I hadn't done in years. Why? Because I'm clearly a masochist, or, as my therapist would say, still invested in keeping the relationship fresh. Note to self, fire therapist. Driving into the gleaming Titan Technologies parking lot, I felt a flutter of excitement. The glass monolith where my husband made financial magic happen loomed ahead, catching the afternoon sun in a way that made it look like it was winking at me. Foreshadowing anyone? I spotted Weston's assigned parking spot, the one with the pretentious little sign reading W. Emerson, CFO, and his Tesla was there, but he wasn't in it. At least, not completely. 2 bodies were pressed against the driver's side door. One was definitely my husband. I recognized the overpriced haircut I'd paid for just last week. The other belonged to a woman I'd met at multiple company functions. Vanessa Maxwell, his 27-year-old executive assistant with legs longer than my patience. My brain cycled through reactions faster than Weston cycled through excuses when he forgot to take out the trash. Shock. Rage. An odd calculation of how much alimony I could get. And then, with the clarity of someone who's watched too many revenge movies, I did the only logical thing. I pulled out my phone and started recording in crystal clear 4K. Got to love technology, I whispered to myself, zooming in just enough to capture Weston's wandering hands on Vanessa's waist, the same hands that had given me a perfunctory peck on the cheek this morning before leaving for work. I recorded for exactly 47 seconds, long enough to establish that this wasn't just a friendly colleague hug gone awry, but not so long that I'd have to witness anything requiring eye bleach later. Then I did something truly inspired. I honked. Not a polite little "excuse me" tap, but a full-on hand-pressed firmly to the horn symphony of interruption. They jumped apart like teenagers caught by parents, except teenagers would have shown more dignity. Weston's face performed an impressive transformation from passion to terror, his expression morphing into what I can only describe as man who suddenly remembers he has both a wife and a prenup with a fidelity clause. "Pearl," he squawked, his voice hitting a pitch I didn't know adult men could achieve. "What are you— this isn't—" I rolled down my window, smiled sweetly, and called out, "Hi, honey. Just thought I'd surprise you for our anniversary. Looks like surprises all around today." Vanessa had the audacity to straighten her blouse, as if that would somehow erase what I'd just witnessed. "Mrs. Emerson, this really isn't— Save it for your LinkedIn recommendation, sweetheart." I cut her off, my smile never wavering. Weston started walking toward my car, panic etched across his face. "Pearl, please, let me explain." That's when I did something that would make every wronged spouse in America proud. I put the car in reverse and said, loud enough for both of them to hear, "I already have your explanation, in 4K. Can't wait to show it at the company gala I'm planning next month." The look of pure horror on his face was almost worth the impending emotional trauma. Almost. I drove home with mechanical precision, my mind already formulating what happened next. Most people in my situation would cry, call their mom, or perhaps consume a bottle of wine. But I'm not most people. I'm the woman who planned President Rafferty's campaign fundraiser during a power outage without breaking a sweat. This was just another event to manage. The dismantling of a decade-long marriage. Walking into our house, the one with Weston's name first on the deed despite my down payment contribution, I went straight to our home office. Our anniversary dinner reservation would have to wait. I had more pressing matters to attend to, like downloading the video to 3 separate cloud storage accounts and our home server. Backup is important, kids. My phone started buzzing incessantly. Weston, of course, alternating between calling and texting increasingly desperate messages. It's not what it looks like. Please, let me explain. Where are you? We need to talk. I responded with a single text. Currently busy backing up the video to the cloud. Don't worry, I got your good side. Then I poured myself a glass of the ridiculously expensive scotch Weston had been saving for a special occasion, and sat down at my computer. As an event planner, I knew something fundamental about successful gatherings. Timing is everything. And revenge, like a good souffle, shouldn't be rushed. The annual Titan Technologies Gala was scheduled for November 18th, just over a month away. The theme I'd chosen, ironically enough, was transparency in business. Every executive would be there, including CEO Soren Hayes, Weston's boss and supposed best friend. The board members, the investors, all present to celebrate another year of record profits. And I, as the event planner hired specifically at Weston's recommendation, had complete control over the audio-visual elements of the evening. As I sipped Weston's scotch, I opened my planning document and made a new entry. Special presentation, honesty and leadership. Below it I typed, duration, 47 seconds. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my best friend Tess Holloway, who, conveniently enough, worked in the accounting department at Titan Technologies. You okay? Weston's running around the office like his hair's on fire, her text read. I smiled for the first time that day. I'm fine. Better than fine. In fact, I'm planning a presentation that's going to bring down the house. The game was on. And unlike my husband, I knew how to play to win. By the time Weston's Tesla pulled into our driveway that evening, I'd already ordered Thai takeout and changed into my comfiest loungewear. Not the cute kind, but the I've given up trying to impress you variety. Somehow eating pad thai in ratty sweats while plotting your husband's professional demise just hits different. The front door opened with that tentative creak that only accompanies someone who knows they're in deep trouble. Weston entered like a condemned man approaching the gallows, clutching, wait for it, a bouquet of roses that screamed, gas station impulse purchase. Pearl? His voice had that trembling quality usually reserved for people calling their credit card company about suspicious charges. Can we talk? I glanced up from my noodles, chopsticks poised midair. About what? Your pathological inability to keep your tongue in your own mouth? Or the fact that you bought me grocery store flowers on our 10th anniversary? He placed the sad bouquet on our imported Italian marble countertop, the one he'd insisted on during our renovation despite my preference for quartz. The roses slouched to one side like Weston's moral compass. What you saw today? He began. What I recorded today, I corrected, smiling sweetly while twirling noodles. He flinched. It's not a regular thing. Oh, so it's just an occasional thing? Well, that changes everything. I placed my container down with theatrical care. Here I was thinking you were having a full-blown affair, but if you're only intermittently betraying our marriage, I should probably be thanking you for your restraint. Weston sank onto one of our designer bar stools, the ones featured in Architectural Digest during that home spread he'd insisted on. It just happened, Pearl. Vanessa and I were working late on the Kendrick acquisition. Fascinating how working late translates to horizontal mambo in the parking lot. Harvard Business Review should do a feature. It was a moment of weakness, he continued, rubbing his temples in that way he did when trying to appear tortured and sympathetic, a move I'd seen him practice before board meetings. The stress of the merger, The long hours. I'm planning the president's charity dinner next month with a budget that was slashed in half, yet somehow I manage not to fall face first into my assistant's mouth. Crazy how that works. My phone buzzed. A text from Tess. Vanessa called in sick tomorrow. Soren's asking questions. You okay? I smiled at my phone, then looked up at Weston. Seems like Vanessa's experiencing some workplace discomfort. Must be going around. Weston's face paled. You haven't told anyone, have you? Define anyone. He stood up so fast the bar stool wobbled. Pearl, this could ruin my career. The board has a strict morality clause. If Soren finds out his best friend is sleeping with a subordinate half his age, yes, that would be unfortunate, wouldn't it? Almost as unfortunate as finding out your husband of 10 years is a walking cliché. I'll end it with her. Today. Right now. He pulled out his phone. I laughed. Not a cute chuckle, but the full-bodied laugh of someone who's crossed into a new dimension of disbelief. You think that's the solution? Sorry, honey, I'll stop cheating now that I've been caught? Do I have welcome tattooed on my forehead? The doorbell rang. We both froze. Expecting someone? Weston asked, hope flashing across his face like he thought it might be a marriage counselor I'd miraculously arranged in the past 2 hours. Actually, yes. I walked to the door, swinging my hips with renewed confidence. Standing on our porch, holding a bottle of expensive champagne, was Meredith Emerson, Weston's mother and my personal tormentor for the past decade. Surprise, she trilled, brushing past me without waiting for an invitation. I couldn't miss my favorite couple's anniversary. Weston's face achieved a new shade of white I'd previously only seen on paint swatches labeled Designer's Surrender. Mother, this isn't really a good time, he started. Nonsense. I drove all the way from Greenwich. She spotted my takeout containers. Oh, you're eating in? On your anniversary? Her tone suggested I'd committed a war crime. Change of plans, I said cheerfully. Weston had an unexpected performance at work today. Meredith's eyes narrowed as she sensed the tension. In 10 years of marriage, I'd never seen her miss an opportunity to blame me for any discord. What's going on? She looked between us suspiciously. I smiled, channeling her own passive-aggressive energy right back at her. Why don't you ask your son about his executive assistant? The one with legs up to her earlobes and apparently skills that extend well beyond administrative duties. Pearl! Weston hissed. Meredith's perfectly Botoxed forehead attempted to frown. What is she talking about, Weston? Nothing, Mother. Pearl and I are just having a disagreement about whether making out with your 27-year-old assistant in the company parking lot constitutes grounds for divorce. I pulled out my phone. Would you like to see the video? The lighting is excellent. The silence that followed was so complete, you could hear the ice melting in my abandoned drink. Meredith's face performed an Olympic-worthy routine of expressions, landing finally on something between horror and calculation. I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding, she said finally, her socialite training kicking in. These young assistants can be so aggressive these days. They see a successful man and just throw themselves. Save the victim-blaming script, Meredith, I cut in. Unless Vanessa has the ability to control Weston's hands, which were firmly planted on her backside, I don't think we can pin this on female aggression. Weston collapsed onto the sofa, head in hands. This isn't happening. That's exactly what I thought when I saw you playing tonsil hockey in broad daylight, I replied. Yet here we are. Meredith set down her champagne with the deliberate care of someone about to switch tactics. Pearl, dear, marriages go through difficult phases. When Weston's father had his indiscretion with his secretary. Wow, I interrupted, genuinely stunned. So that's where he learned it? Family tradition passed down like a recipe for betrayal soufflé? Weston's head snapped up. Dad cheated on you? Meredith waved dismissively. That's not the point. The point is, I forgave him, and we had 15 more years together before his heart attack. 15 years of what? I asked. Silent resentment? Checking his phone while he slept? Planning elaborate accidents that would look natural? Her lips thinned. Marriage requires sacrifice. I've sacrificed plenty, I said, surprising myself with the sudden emotion in my voice. I've sacrificed girls' nights to attend his boring work functions. I've sacrificed my dignity sitting through your holiday dinners where you critique everything from my career to my childless status. I've even sacrificed my own career advancement to move here for his promotion. I turned to Weston. But I won't sacrifice my self-respect. Not for you, not for this marriage, and certainly not to maintain appearances for the country club crowd. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Tess. Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow morning. Soren's asking for financial records on all executive expenses. I smiled. Tess, bless her accounting heart, had wasted no time. As the head of financial compliance, she had access to all expense reports, including the ones showing Weston's numerous business dinners with Vanessa at hotels around the city. Something amusing? Meredith asked icily. Just the beginning of consequences, I replied. You know what they say. Karma comes after everyone eventually. Some people just need priority shipping. Weston lunged for my phone. What did you do? I stepped back, clutching my phone to my chest. Me? I didn't do anything, yet. But it seems the universe has Amazon Prime. His face contorted. You're trying to ruin me. No, sweetheart, I said with deadly calm. You did that all by yourself. I'm just making sure everyone gets the memo. Meredith stepped between us. This is getting out of hand. Whatever Weston did, destroying his career won't solve anything. Think about your future, Pearl. I am thinking about my future, I replied. For the first time in years, actually. And surprisingly, it looks brighter without a cheating husband and a mother-in-law who thinks infidelity is a family heirloom to be passed down through generations. I grabbed my keys from the counter. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a gala to plan. It's going to be a night everyone remembers, especially you, Weston. As I headed for the door, I turned back one last time. Oh, and Meredith? That champagne you brought? It's from 2019. A terrible year. Just like your son's judgment. I spent the night at Tess's downtown condo, the kind of sleek, minimalist space that screams, successful single woman who doesn't need to accommodate a cheating husband's golf trophies. We stayed up until 2 a.m., drinking wine that didn't come from Weston's precious cellar collection, and plotting with the methodical precision usually reserved for military coups or Taylor Swift stadium tours. You're sure about the expense reports? I asked Tess, who was cross-legged on her white sofa, laptop balanced on her knees. She nodded, scrolling through a spreadsheet that looked like the financial equivalent of a crime scene. 6 different business dinners at the Langham Hotel in the past 3 months. Room service charges for 2. Unless Weston suddenly developed multiple personalities who all needed their own breakfast, he wasn't dining alone. The Langham, I repeated, swirling my wine. That's where he said he was meeting potential investors from Chicago. Only investor he was meeting was in his assistant's career development, Tess muttered. Oh, and there's more. He's been transferring company funds to a private account. I nearly spat out my Cabernet. He's embezzling? Not technically. He's been moving his annual bonus into a separate account you don't have access to. Started exactly 2 years ago. 2 years. The timing hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. That was when I'd mentioned wanting to start our own event planning company. An idea Weston had dismissed as risky and impractical. Apparently, he'd been planning his own exit strategy while criticizing mine. The account has almost $400,000 in it, Tess continued. Enough for a fresh start with someone younger who doesn't remember you when you had a receding hairline and acid reflux from eating spicy food, I said, the bitterness in my voice surprising even me. My phone buzzed. Weston's 17th missed call of the evening, followed immediately by a text. Please come home. We can fix this. I showed Tess, who rolled her eyes with the expertise of someone who'd been witnessing bad male behavior since junior high. Translation: please come home so I can gaslight you into thinking this is somehow your fault for being too busy with your career. Or, please come home because Mother is still here and she's making me uncomfortable with her pointed questions about whether I've always been this stupid. We laughed, but mine felt hollow. 10 years of my life invested in a man who couldn't even cheat with originality. The CFO sleeping with his young assistant. It was like he'd ordered his midlife crisis from a catalog. Wednesday morning arrived with the crisp October clarity that makes you believe anything is possible, including elaborate revenge on a philandering spouse. I dressed in one of my power outfits, a perfectly tailored black pantsuit that I knew made me look both competent and unapproachable, the corporate equivalent of a do not disturb sign. "What's the plan?" Tess asked, handing me a coffee as we prepared to head to our respective offices. "First, I need to talk to Soren, before Weston spins this into me being the vindictive wife trying to ruin him over a misunderstanding." Soren Hayes, CEO of Titan Technologies and Weston's supposed best friend, had always treated me with the distracted cordiality of someone who views his executives' spouses as pleasant but unnecessary background characters. Today, that would change. I texted him directly. "Need to meet regarding the gala. Also have sensitive information about executive conduct that requires immediate attention." His response came within minutes. My office, 9:30. Titan Technologies headquarters loomed before me, all glass and steel and corporate ambition. Walking through the lobby felt like entering a gladiator arena, except instead of lions, I'd be facing down corporate politics and a husband who'd underestimated me for the last time. Several employees did double takes as I passed, word clearly having spread that something was amiss in the Emerson marriage. One brave soul, Jenkins from marketing, actually asked, "Everything okay, Mrs. Emerson?" "Weston seems distracted today." I smiled with all the warmth of an Arctic front. "Fascinating observation, Jenkins. Perhaps his conscience is weighing heavily on his libido." Jenkins turned the color of an overripe tomato and suddenly remembered an urgent meeting elsewhere. Soren's corner office offered a panoramic view of Westchester County, the kind of vista that makes powerful men feel even more powerful. He rose from behind his imposing desk when I entered, his expression a mixture of concern and calculation. "Pearl," he began, "I've called an emergency board meeting for 11 Dokao. Before we go in, I need to know exactly what's happening with Weston." I placed my phone on his desk and hit play without preamble. The video of Weston and Vanessa's parking lot rendezvous spoke for itself. Soren's face remained impressively impassive, the result of years negotiating with tech giants and venture capitalists. When the video ended, he sighed deeply. "How long has this been going on?" he asked, his tone measured. "The affair? Based on expense reports showing intimate dinners and hotel stays, at least 3 months. But that's not all." I pulled out the financial documents Tess had provided. "He's been hiding money, his bonuses, in a private account I didn't know about. Started 2 years ago." Soren studied the papers, his expression darkening. "This violates at least 2 clauses in his contract. The board will demand action." He looked up at me. "What do you want, Pearl?" The question caught me off guard. In all my anger and plotting, I hadn't actually formulated what I wanted as an outcome. Revenge, yes. Justice, absolutely. But the specifics? "I want what I've earned," I said finally. 10 years of supporting his career, of planning events that made this company look good, of being the perfect corporate wife. I want acknowledgement that I added value while he subtracted trust. Soren nodded slowly. "You've always been too smart for him." I told him that once at a Christmas party. He laughed it off. This revelation stunned me. "You knew that he didn't appreciate you? Everyone knew. That he was cheating? No. I wouldn't have tolerated that." He tapped the financial documents. "Or this." The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Hayes, the board is assembling in the conference room, and Mr. Emerson is asking to speak with you urgently. Tell him I'm in a meeting," Soren replied. "We'll see him at 11 AO. He turned back to me. "The gala is next month. You're still planning it?" A slow smile spread across my face. "Oh, absolutely. In fact, I've been considering a special presentation about corporate transparency." Soren's eyebrow arched. "The board would normally need to approve any changes to the program. Or," I countered, "the CEO could authorize it as a special initiative." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "You know, Pearl, we have an opening in our corporate events division, director level. The previous person left to pursue other opportunities." "Is that so?" I kept my tone neutral, but my heart raced. The role oversees all company events globally. Requires extensive travel, creative control, and comes with significant stock options. He slid a folder across the desk. "Your qualifications would be Ideal. I opened the folder to find a job description with a salary that made my eyes widen. This wasn't just a job offer. It was independence. Freedom. The very thing Weston had discouraged me from seeking. Why? I asked simply. Because talent deserves recognition. And because I've been waiting for an excuse to restructure the executive team for months. Weston's been coasting on past performance while taking credit for other people's work, including yours. The pieces clicked into place. The real reason Weston had been so against my career advancement, it would have threatened his own carefully constructed image. The board meeting, I began, will determine Weston's future at the company, Soren finished. But regardless of the outcome, your opportunity stands. My phone buzzed with a text from Tess. Boardroom filling up. Weston looks like he's about to throw up on his Ferragamo loafers. I showed Soren, who actually chuckled. Shall we? He asked, gesturing toward the door. As we walked down the hallway toward the boardroom, I felt a strange sense of calm. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my worth. One more thing, I said, stopping just before the boardroom doors. About the gala presentation. The one about transparency? Soren's eyes gleamed with understanding. I'm thinking we should make it the centerpiece of the evening. Really drive home the company's commitment to ethical behavior. He nodded slowly. I believe that can be arranged. After all, nothing says corporate values quite like a real-world demonstration. As we pushed open the doors to face the board, and Weston, I couldn't help but think that sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the betrayal. It's rising from its ashes more powerful than before. The Titan Technologies boardroom resembled a luxury bunker, all mahogany panels and leather chairs, designed to make important people feel even more important while they made decisions affecting thousands of lives. Today, it would witness the corporate execution of one Weston Emerson, who sat at the far end looking like he'd swallowed a particularly spiky cactus. As Soren and I entered, all 14 board members turned in perfect synchronicity, like those horror movies where possessed dolls track you with their eyes. Weston half rose from his chair, then seemed to think better of it when he saw my expression, which I'd carefully calibrated to volcanic but controlled. Mr. Hayes, Mrs. Emerson, greeted Eleanor Blackwood, the board chairwoman whose silver bob and perpetual scowl had terrorized underperforming executives for 2 decades. I understand we have some sensitive matters to discuss. Indeed, Soren replied, gesturing for me to take a seat directly opposite Weston. Mrs. Emerson has brought some concerning information to my attention regarding both personal and professional conduct. Weston's face performed an impressive color-changing routine, from ghost white to fire engine red in under 3 seconds. I can explain, he blurted. Eleanor raised one perfectly manicured hand. I believe we should hear the accusations first, Mr. Emerson. Professional courtesy. Professional courtesy. Something Weston had apparently forgotten existed while he was busy giving Vanessa her performance review in the parking lot. Soren nodded toward me. Pearl, would you like to begin? I smiled, the kind of smile that makes men instinctively protect their vital organs. I'd be delighted. I placed my phone on the table and connected it to the room's presentation system. Yesterday, I discovered my husband, your chief financial officer, engaged in an inappropriate relationship with his direct report, Vanessa Maxwell. Alleged relationship, Weston interjected desperately. Visual evidence suggests otherwise, I replied, pressing play. The 47-second video of Weston and Vanessa's parking lot passion played on the giant screen usually reserved for quarterly earnings reports. The room fell so silent, you could hear the collective tightening of 14 sphincters. One board member actually removed his glasses, cleaned them, and put them back on, as if better vision might somehow change what he was seeing. When the video ended, I continued with clinical precision. Beyond the obvious ethical violation of engaging with a subordinate, financial records indicate Mr. Emerson has been using company resources to facilitate this relationship. Tess, bless her accounting soul, stepped forward with copies of the expense reports. 6 separate occasions where Mr. Emerson charged the company for business dinners that were actually romantic rendezvous at the Langham Hotel, complete with room service for 2 and extended stays. Eleanor's scowl deepened to Death Valley proportions. Is this accurate, Mr. Emerson? Weston looked like a man watching his career plummet from the top floor of a very tall building. The expenses were legitimate business. Unless your business includes ordering champagne and strawberries at 11 p.m., I think we can all agree on what kind of business was being conducted, Tess interrupted, sliding specific receipts toward the board members. And there's more, I added, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. Mr. Emerson has been diverting his company bonuses to a private account unknown to me, his spouse, for the past 2 years. While not technically embezzlement, it does raise questions about financial transparency and potential preparation for, shall we say, an undisclosed exit strategy. The board members exchanged glances that could only be described as sharks sensing blood in the water. These are serious allegations, Eleanor said, turning to Soren. What is your recommendation as CEO? Soren leaned forward. Our company values explicitly prohibit relationships between managers and their direct reports. They also mandate financial transparency from all executives. Given the evidence, I recommend immediate termination. Weston half rose again. This is ridiculous. 10 years of service to this company, and you're going to fire me over a momentary indiscretion? 6 hotel stays suggest your concept of momentary needs revision, Eleanor observed dryly. Perhaps your timekeeper needs calibration along with your moral compass. What about her? Weston pointed at me, desperation making him reckless. She's planning something for the gala, some kind of public humiliation. Ask her. All eyes turned to me. The gala, I said smoothly, will proceed as planned, with one minor adjustment. The theme of transparency in business will be emphasized through a special presentation highlighting the company's renewed commitment to ethical conduct. Mr. Hayes has already approved the changes. You're trying to destroy me, Weston hissed. I met his gaze steadily. No, Weston. I'm simply allowing your actions to have their natural consequences. Something you've avoided your entire privileged life. Eleanor cleared her throat. I believe we've heard enough. The board will deliberate privately. Mr. Emerson, please wait outside. Mr. Hayes, Mrs. Emerson, you may stay. Weston stood, straightened his designer tie, the one I'd given him last Christmas, and walked out with all the dignity of a man whose pants were caught in an escalator. The deliberation took precisely 12 minutes. When Weston was called back in, Eleanor didn't bother with pleasantries. Mr. Emerson, your employment with Titan Technologies is terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you to clear out your personal items. Your company car privileges are revoked. Your stock options are frozen pending further review, and your final paycheck will reflect deductions for misused company funds. Weston swayed slightly, like a tree in the first stages of falling. You can't do this. I built half the client relationships this company depends on. Actually, Soren interjected, our client satisfaction surveys indicate it was your team that maintained those relationships, often despite your involvement, not because of it. Watching your husband's carefully constructed professional facade crumble is a unique experience, like seeing a wax figure melt in real time, revealing nothing beneath the surface. Pearl, Weston turned to me, his voice suddenly soft. Are you really going to let this happen? 10 years of marriage. 10 years, I repeated, during which you discouraged my career aspirations, hid money from me, and ultimately betrayed not just our marriage but your professional ethics. So yes, I'm really going to let this happen. In fact, I'm going to help it happen. I turned to the board. There's one more thing you should know. I've accepted Mr. Hayes' offer to become the new director of global events for Titan Technologies. I'll be overseeing all corporate functions worldwide, including, of course, next month's gala. The look on Weston's face was worth every second of the past 48 hours. Pure, unadulterated shock, followed by the dawning realization that I would now be employed by the very company that had just fired him. You planned this, he whispered. No, I corrected. I adapted to changing circumstances. Something you taught me was essential in business. Consider it the one valuable lesson I'm taking from our marriage. Security arrived with impressive timing. two broad-shouldered men in suits who flanked Weston with professional detachment. "Your office has been secured, Mr. Emerson," one of them said. "We'll escort you to collect your personal items." As Weston was led away, Eleanor turned to me with something almost approaching a smile. "Mrs. Emerson, or should I say, Director Emerson, I look forward to seeing what you do with the gala. Based on today's performance, I expect it will be memorable." "Oh, it will be," I assured her. Nothing says corporate reinvention quite like watching the old guard fall and the new guard rise. After the board members filed out, Soren stayed behind with me in the emptying boardroom. "Was it worth it?" he asked quietly. I considered the question. Justice usually is, though I suspect the real satisfaction will come next month at the gala. "About that," he said. "What exactly are you planning to show?" I smiled. "Nothing that happened today. That would be unprofessional and potentially actionable. Then, let's just say I've been collecting evidence of Weston taking credit for other people's work for years. Emails, presentation drafts, recorded meetings. The presentation will simply restore credit where it's due." Soren laughed. "Remind me never to cross you, Pearl." "That," I said, gathering my things, "is probably the smartest business decision you'll make all year." As I walked out of Titan Technologies that day, not as Weston Emerson's wife, but as their new director of global events, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a promotion, a corner office, and the satisfying knowledge that your ex-husband is currently explaining to his mother why he's unemployed, publicly humiliated, and facing divorce proceedings. And I hadn't even gotten to the gala yet. November 18th arrived crisp and clear. Perfect weather for career resurrection and ex-husband humiliation. The month following Weston's spectacular professional implosion had been eventful, to say the least. He'd moved in with his mother in Greenwich, a punishment that almost made me feel sorry for him. Almost. Divorce papers had been filed faster than a YouTube copyright claim, with my lawyer discovering that secret account wasn't Weston's only financial sleight of hand. Turns out, when your soon-to-be ex's professional reputation is in tatters, his negotiating position weakens considerably. Meanwhile, my new office at Titan Technologies offered a view that made Weston's former space look like a storage closet. Soren had been true to his word. The director of global events position came with actual power. Not just a fancy title and expectations to order lunch for the real executives. The annual gala was being held at the Whitney Museum. My choice. Not the country club Weston had initially booked. 500 of the industry's elite gathered in designer formal wear, sipping champagne that cost more than some people's monthly rent, while pretending to care about the art surrounding them. I stood at the entrance in a crimson dress that had cost precisely 1 day of my new salary, greeting attendees with the confident smile of someone who had orchestrated not just an event, but a resurrection. "Pearl," Tess approached, stunning in midnight blue. "The place looks amazing. Very different from last year's snooze fest at the golf club." "Amazing what happens when you prioritize style over stuffy tradition," I replied, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing server. "Have you heard from him?" she asked, lowering her voice. "You mean besides the desperate settlement offers and the drunk text comparing me to Judas?" "Not recently." I sipped my champagne. Though I did hear from Meredith yesterday. Apparently, living with a 41-year-old unemployed son is straining her bridge club schedule. Tess snorted. "Karma really doesn't mess around once it gets going." Speaking of karma, I nodded toward the entrance where Vanessa Maxwell had just arrived, looking uncomfortable in a conservative black dress that screamed, "Please don't notice me." After Weston's firing, she'd been transferred to the accounting department. A lateral move that Tess assured me involved spreadsheets far less exciting than hotel bedspreads. The board had decided that firing her would look like victim blaming, but keeping her in executive administration would send the wrong message. Accounting purgatory was the compromise. "Should we say hello?" Tess asked with mock innocence. "I think my successful existence is greeting enough," I replied. The evening proceeded with choreographed precision. Dinner, speeches, awards. Then came the moment I'd been planning for weeks. Soren took the stage, adjusting the microphone with practiced ease. "Tonight's theme is transparency in business," he began. Recent events have reminded us that integrity isn't just a word on our mission statement. It's the foundation of everything we do. Subtle murmurs rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew about Weston's downfall. It had been the subject of industry gossip for weeks. To demonstrate our commitment to giving credit where it's due, I'd like to introduce our new Director of Global Events, Pearl Emerson, who has prepared a special presentation. I took the stage to generous applause, some genuine, some curious. The lights dimmed, and the presentation began. What followed wasn't the public humiliation of Weston that everyone expected. Instead, it was a masterclass in professional restoration. I showcased projects from throughout Titan's history, correctly attributing innovations to their actual creators, many of whom were middle managers or team members whose contributions had been claimed by executives like Weston. The presentation ended with a new company initiative, the Innovation Recognition Program, designed to ensure that good ideas were attributed to their sources, regardless of title or position. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, Eleanor Blackwood approached me. Her perpetual scowl softened to merely mild disapproval. Not what I expected, Director Emerson. Disappointed by the lack of bloodshed? I asked. Impressed by your restraint, she corrected. You could have burned it all down. Instead, you built something better. I smiled. Revenge is momentarily satisfying. Building a legacy lasts longer. Later that evening, as the party wound down and the last executives stumbled into their waiting town cars, I found myself alone on the museum's terrace, contemplating the Manhattan skyline, all glittering promise and sharp edges, much like my new life. Tess joined me, offering another glass of champagne. Penny for your thoughts? I was just thinking about something my grandmother used to say. When someone shows you who they are, thank them for the information. Wise woman. She also said men who cheat deserve to have their belongings set on fire. But her first saying was more quotable. We laughed, the sound carrying across the terrace into the November night. So what now? Tess asked. You've got the career, the settlement, the professional respect. What's next for Pearl Emerson 2.0? I considered the question, watching my breath form clouds in the cool air. I'm thinking Europe. Titan's London office needs an events overhaul, and I've never lived abroad. Running away? Strategic advancement, I corrected. Besides, I hear British men have much better accents when they inevitably disappoint you. 1 month later, I stood in Heathrow Airport with 2 suitcases and a carry-on containing the essentials: clothes, passport, and divorce papers signed by Weston, who had finally accepted that no amount of begging would undo the consequences of his actions. My phone buzzed with a text from Tess. Heard Weston's interviewing for a job in Minneapolis. Vanessa's not relocating with him. Shock of the century. Call me when you land. I smiled, tucking my phone away as I headed toward the taxi stand. They say living well is the best revenge, but I'd discovered something better. Living authentically. Weston had done me a favor, really. In trying to diminish me, he'd set me free. And that, unlike his fidelity, his financial honesty, or his professional ethics, was something I could genuinely thank him for.